on this computer. Look at that, remembering to reward. Okay, so I see a couple of people are hybrid, online only. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And then I gotta figure out how I can see the chat and my presentation at the same time. Get out of my way, Zoom. There we go. There's the chat. Can you guys see everything? Are we good? I can't see anyone, so you got to give me a vocal. Yes, we're good. Online supporters like. All right, we're good. All right.
We gotcha.
Okay. All right, hybrid AB groups. I'm seeing a lot of hybrid, yet to be determined. Remote for a couple weeks, meeting once a week. Okay, so we in Manitou Springs, we are going to be, oops, there we go. We're going to be hybrid as well. Get this chat out of the way. So if someone else wants to monitor the chat for me, that'd be awesome because I don't think I'm going to be able to see it. So we will be hybrid as well in that I'll see kids like once or twice a week, and then the other days they'll be doing stuff online. And so personally, when I was thinking about restarting school and student council, just what is it going to look like? So these are kind of the 5 things I'm going to try to touch on today. Rethinking fall events. What does committee work look like? So if you're actually doing something and planning something, just some tips for committee work. Team building at a distance and some ideas to still do those team building things, but keeping social distancing. Hybrid book groups. So, I mean, I usually do book groups second semester, but I will definitely move them to first semester given the lack of planning of large events that we will have. And then some goal setting and different methods for that. If you were in the CHASA summer camp with me when we were at the last time we were at CSU, some of this stuff will look familiar. So you'll just see ideas for tailoring it to kind of a hybrid or online scenario. So I'm hoping many of you know what this is. Simon Sinek, Start With Why. There's a link here to the video. I'll drop this presentation in the folder that I shared with you as well. If I'm not going to show the video, but if you have time, go and watch it if you haven't seen it. But it is, oh my goodness, there we go. But it's basically this idea of the golden circle. So we all know what we do, we know how we do it, but few people know why they do what they do. When looking at fall events for student council, our kids are really going to be focused on the what, the assembly, the dance, the back to school, whatever you do to welcome freshmen, maybe a freshman orientation. We know how we do it, we know the steps that we take, and the kids are could really get stuck here on the what and the how. So how are we going to do what we usually do? But I want to encourage you to push to get to this why when you're rethinking the fall events. So with that in mind, this chat thing is not going to work the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. So do you have a mission? Yes.
I'm sorry. I got the book Find Your Why by
Oh,
Simon.
yes.
And it is step-by-step how to do this with your group. So and I'm so excited you're saying this because that's exactly what I'm doing with my group when we start out, because we have lost our why.
Yes, yes.
and this year, so I'm super excited to do that. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the book is a beautiful step-by-step. Sorry, you were probably getting there, but I'm excited, sorry.
No, that's awesome. I actually haven't read Find Your Why. We've just done a lot of different methods within our council to find the why. So that's awesome. That's a great recommendation. And really, if you do have a mission statement or you do have a purpose, I would encourage councils to reevaluate it at least every year, maybe every other year. We went through a really big process last year, and it takes some time, but if you can get kids to think about why they do what they do, you're going to have a lot more meat to whatever you put out for the student body. I'm now we'll go through. So just a couple of, these are just 2 tricks that we've used, and then I'll open it up to if anybody else has ideas for that finding your why or reevaluating. Has anyone used Ubuntu cards before? I'm gonna see if, so these are, some people call them metaphor cards, but they just have images on them. So one side has a group of images, and then the other side is just a single image. We last spring did this fun thing where I just laid all the cards out on the table, and there, I think it's a little more than a full deck. There might be 55 in the deck. And kids just grabbed one, and I said, think about who we are as a student council, pick out an image that represents who we are as a student council, and then we just did like pairing. And so 2 kids got together, they shared their images, they shared why their images represented who we are, and then after sharing their images, they had to choose which one. And so then you had 2 kids agreeing on one, then groups of 4 had to agree on one, until we literally had 2 halves of the room had 2 different images, and talking about, and it's funny, in this picture that I found online were the top 2 images we had. We had the clothespin and the magnifying glass were the top 2. And one of our students argued that with the magnifying glasses, we look at everything really closely and really evaluate what we do. The clothespin was holding up others, holding, you know, just holding up and putting other people on display and being that servant to other people. And so we kind of uncovered that the magnifying glass is how we do what we do, but the clothespin was our why, was elevating other people. And so then that led to a discussion and reevaluating what our purpose statement actually said. So kind of a cool deal. There's another one that I just recently was introduced to at the NatStuco conference. So Tom Heath is the state director in Michigan, or was, I don't know if he still is, but he has this Google folder that you can search for. And so I dropped the link to it in the folder that you have access to. And there's literally 40 purposes. So you print out these cards, have kids lay them out on the table, and then they have to cut it in half. So they pick their top 20, then they pick their top 10, then they pick their top 5, write reasonings behind their top 5. So it's a similar idea of the metaphor cards, except it's not metaphorical. They're just statements of what is your purpose. This would be a good jumping off point if you don't have a mission statement at all. So just another way to uncover your why. Any other ideas or methods that people have used? Obviously the book, Find Your Why. Other things that people have done in their councils. No, all right. We will go on. So with that in mind, so it's like I said before with fall events, so don't just replace the what, you want to get to the why that the event fulfills. Our mission statement actually has 4 whys embedded in it. And so we'll look directly at, like, this event is to create an environment for others to thrive and grow. So how do we create an environment when we can't all get together? Just getting back to the why of the event. Now, the actual planning, so the how. This one, these are some little tips that I learned the hard way last spring. So did anyone else, I feel like I keep asking questions. This is so weird to do virtually and not have like the nodding. Yeah, we did that. But last spring, I'm sure like other people, we did some virtual assemblies or tried to, and ended up just making videos for our end of the year assembly. Had a couple of other ideas that didn't really pan out, dress up days that, you know, kids are like, yeah, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And then you log out of the Zoom meeting and nothing actually happens, which when that happens and you're in class, the kids can find each other, they hold each other accountable, but Zoom, you're really, you know, remote, it's just harder. Everything takes longer, it takes extra steps. So some things that we found worked when we did our end of the year video. Use shared documents for everything. So if you don't have some kind of folder. Google Drive is where we house everything. Kids can go back and look at previous year's stuff, but just open it up, have a place where kids can share all their documents and everyone can see everything. And so then if you have students crossing over committees or using things from previous years, they can dig through the folders and find stuff. Smaller groups. When I do committees in the fall, so if we were doing homecoming, we would have like dance, assembly, powder puff game, all the different things that we do, the spirit week, advertising. Those committees are usually like 5 to 6 people. We figured out that 2 to 3 people per committee or per group worked way better because there's higher accountability. You know, if only 1 or 2 people or 3 people are assigned to a task, then they've got to get it done. Like there's no hiding behind that bigger group. Assigning specific tasks, we took a Zoom meeting. I opened up a document, listed out all of the tasks and put names next to it. And so again, that was really just a higher accountability for kids. Cass showed this example last week when we talked about teacher appreciation, and you brought up the list of teachers and kids signed up for individual teachers. And by doing that, and the kids are just more accountable to what they need to do. Again, higher accountability, small group autonomy. I gave them permission to just make decisions in their small group. So instead of having to get together and vote on every last thing, one of the things we did were like the end of the year superlative awards. So like sickest whip, best hair, that kind of stuff. The group of 2 or 3 kids just had full autonomy to decide what the categories were going to be rather than spending an hour online in a Zoom meeting trying to work it out. So any other, I guess we'll share at the end. I'll come back out of this view and we can share at the end for this. Flying through this, so we have time at the end. Team building at a distance. There, if you do not follow Training Wheels with Michelle Cummings, do it. You can find her website, sign up for her newsletter. She kicks out a Wednesday newsletter every week, and it's just got just one idea. Through the whole summer, she's been doing remote ideas, virtual team building. I dropped a lot of her stuff in the folder and links to all of this stuff, but she kicked out a video not too long ago that was team building from 6 feet apart. And there's just gold in there for ideas that you can do to, you know, because you're not going to go in and do the human knot with your kids when they have to sit and face forward and have plexiglass around their desk. But you could get away with some of these things if you have a spot where you can get outside on campus. Buckets was like the aha in her video that she shared. So you can get these buckets fairly inexpensive, like at Home Depot. If you got a connection, maybe you can get something donated. But any stuff that you would use for team building, you put inside each individual bucket, put the lid on it. It gives the kids a place to sit. So you've already designated, like, if you want them to sit in circles, sit in rows, however you want them to sit on the field, put their names on their buckets, or just have them pick a bucket when they show up. And then all their stuff, any kind of props you're going to use can be inside. And then they're not sharing props. You're not passing things out and recollecting things throughout your team building day, whatever you're doing. Zoom, this is also on Michelle Cummings' website, but you can probably find it on Amazon. I'm actually going to how do I get out of share and go back to anybody? Oh, there's stuff in the chat.
Michelle, I can watch the chat for you if you want.
That would be great.
And I'll just kind of keep track of what people are asking you to do, but I think you just hit the share screen button again, and that helps you unshare.
Got it. Okay. Sorry. We're a Google school, so I use Google Meet like religiously, and Zoom is just like another world. But
same.
So I'm going to show you a couple of these things. So these are the Ubuntu cards that I referenced. So they're just these little cards with the symbols on one side. The other side, you could play a game. So you could put these in the buckets, and it's like you find what you have in common, and then the kids share something that they have in common. Normally, I would have kids trade cards and then find a new partner, but you know, you can do that not trading cards, I guess, when they're not sharing materials. Seb, you got to go find something else to do, bud.
And there are some online ways to like scan the card or take a picture of the card and then use random generator, or the kids can pick them virtually. So like you could do the Ubuntu cards virtually as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they have, if you just use a regular deck of cards too, then you can do the card generators. What do you need, Bug? Sorry, the 5-year-old. You got to find something to do, bud. Mommy's presenting, okay? All right. So Zoom, if you've never seen this before, it's a book. Sebastian, I can't turn on Line Guard right now. You got to find something else to do, buddy. All right. Zoom, this book, it literally just zooms in a picture. So you like kids each have a picture, and then they don't share it, what they have. They just have to describe what it is and then get an order based on how the picture changes. So like you see the rooster, but then the rooster's in a window, and then the house gets farther away, and it gets farther away. I use this to talk about planning for things. So having like that big picture perspective. If you have kids who've done this before, it gets really interesting because they understand, like the kid that understands the big picture of it can kind of facilitate and help other kids get in order. And then that leads to a good discussion too of who was your leader, and how did you, someone who could see the big picture, or someone who had an idea of what it was could guide everybody else to get the details in place as you zoom in. So that's just a fun one that you could do. Socially distance outside, like I said, you put one page in each bucket and go for it. The other ones that I had listed, let's see, we'll go back to share my screen over here. Okay, so we have Invisible Maze. Oops, has anyone ever, keep asking questions. So Invisible Maze, this whole idea is you set up a grid on the floor, you have a pathway selected, and then the kids try to guess the pathway one person at a time. If they get it wrong, then they go to the end of the line. Again, something you could spread out and do outside. Key punch, I had never seen before. This picture is actually not a good picture because they have too many people in the circle, but the idea is that one person goes into the circle at a time, and then touches the numbers in order and then comes back out, and you see how fast you can do it. You can set up more than one circle and have teams go against each other. And then prediction is a fun one that you can do virtually. So you hold up the cards and the kids predict what the card is not going to be. So I'll show you really quick how this would work. So if I have a deck of cards here and I say, okay, what is the card not going to be? And you can go in order of whatever your grid is. How about in the chat, share if you have a virtual idea or something you could do at a distance.
If you guys have any ideas of virtual team building events, and I can capture those for everybody. Is prediction, I will ask her. Okay, Shanna, you want to tell us about Would You Rather?
Sure, I've just created, this is my first year and I'm in Gunnison. So I created a Would You Rather, and I'm gonna have the kids do a Would You Rather and explain why, just to try to, just to give more insight, because we got a bunch of new people and I'm new too. So it's just as simple. I just created some Google Slides with Would you rather have ice cream or potato chips, and stuff like that. So it's pretty simple.
Would you be willing to share that with everybody?
Yes, I would.
You rock. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Carrie, can you want to talk about those seating chart challenges? What are you talking about there?
Yeah, I found them online one time and they were amazing. And I think you could do them like socially distanced if you're in person. So you say like, okay, no talking, seat yourselves in order from youngest to oldest, or you give them just different sets of rules and they have to kind of work as a team. to kind of solve the different challenges. So I think if you Google like seating chart challenges, you can find them pretty easy.
That is a great idea. Carrie, do you have a link to any of those kinds of things?
I might have a Google Doc with them, so I can look and share it.
That'd be awesome. If you can throw that in the chat, then we could have the link to it. And Shanna, if you can do the same thing, if you just put the link into the chat, then everybody can grab it from there. And that would be really awesome.
Actually, so that Google Drive folder that I shared with all of you, you could just drop stuff right in that Google Drive folder if you have anything. And even if you think of something after the webinars or as you're going through getting into the school year, just drop it into that folder and we can use that as a place to store things.
So I just made a new folder in there called Shared Ideas from Our Meeting, if that's okay. And then if everybody just wants to drop this stuff we're talking about. Alice, I hope I'm not stepping on your toes, trying to support you.
Nope, you're great.
I'm a grandma of a 5-year-old, so I'm feeling you right now. Todd wanted to know.
He's great during every meeting except the one that I'm presenting, right?
He loves you and wants your attention, absolutely. Hey, Todd was asking about where you found those Zoom pics. He has the book, but loves to have it as a card.
So literally what I did is I cut off the binding of the book and pulled out the pictures, put them on a piece of cardstock and laminated it. It took a hot minute, but that's how I created the pictures.
Hey, Josh, if you put your email in the chat, we can share it with you.
There you go. And Whitney sent out, and in Whitney's email, there was a link to it. So
that's right. Yeah, Josh is down at the bottom, just underneath the link for the meeting.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go back to my screen over here. Oh, prediction. Did I explain prediction? I was going to explain prediction. So prediction is you guess what the next card's not going to be. So if we went in order, and I'm going to pick on Christine because she's first up here on my screen, I'd be like, Christine, what is this card not going to be? And if she says, pick a card, any card.
Okay. It's not, I can't really see them. So like, are they like?
Nope, it's just, this is just the back of the card. So what do you think it's not going to be?
I think, and it's just a regular deck of cards?
Yep.
It's not going to be a Queen of Hearts.
Yeah, you're right, it's not the Queen of Hearts. And then you keep going through, but if someone guesses the correct card, then you have to start over. And so the objective is to get through the whole deck without guessing a card. And about halfway through, the kids realize they should have been keeping track of what cards have already gone by and been guessing those. And so you go through it a couple times. And of course, it turns into a discussion on planning and paying attention, and it's just funny. But you can totally do it virtually. You just have a deck of cards and put it in front of the screen. Sorry to pick on you.
Anytime.
All right. Well, then do something else until it's done, buddy. All right, here we go. Book study groups. So this, I kind of touched on this. I usually do in the spring. In the folder, you have all my materials that I usually do when I set up groups. I break into groups by grade level. And so the 9th graders all work together and the seniors all work together. Usually with sophomores and juniors, I will let them do a book review. So I just lay out all the books that are options for the kids. They, you know, judge a book by its cover. So they flip through it, look at it, write down their top 3 choices, and then I break up the sophomores and juniors based on their book choices. And so sometimes those are mixed. You get a couple sophomores and a couple juniors, but I keep the freshmen separate and then keep the seniors separate. This year, I really want to make sure that they are across cohorts. So we're going to be hybrid. I'm pretty sure my student council will be split in half. So I will see half of them at the beginning of the week, half of them at the end of the week. And so this will be a way to then find something else to do, bud. You play right here with Legos until it's done. Oh my goodness. There you go. It's all done. Okay. So this idea that the kids can still connect virtually through a book group, even if they're not in class together. So for example, if you have, you know, 6 freshmen in one day and 4 freshmen in the other day, they're all reading the same group, they're connecting online, even though they will never never see each other. They won't see each other in class for however long. If you're fully remote, this is something you can do fully online, or if you're in person, again, you could do it in person as well. So you can do discussions through whatever LMS you're using. We're on Canvas. I know other people use Infinite Campus or Schoology, whatever you use. Again, discussions online. The way I will probably set it up is one cohort will ask the questions one week. The other cohort will be the responders to the questions, and then they'll alternate weeks for questions.
And Alice, I did a book study sorry to keep interrupting you. I did a book study last year with some of my kids, and we'd pick a certain section or a quote, and then they would have to do a response. And we used Google Classroom. So they do a response, and then they had to respond to 2 other people's responses with questions or feedback. And it was really engaging. And then we would grab, when we were like in class, grab 1 or 2 that really prompted a lot of feedback, and then have a full class. It was a really neat way to do the book study.
Yes. And if you have not seen this, it is Blended Learning by Caitlin Tucker. This is basically how to set up that. So the idea of taking something out of the book, taking a quote, asking good questions, and creating that community online with kids. And so this is actually, it was written in like 2012, and it's about, using this for homework assignments essentially, but I'm using a lot of this in creating those book study groups. And you set up those parameters and those expectations for kids ahead of time. I'm gonna go back to my little slideshow here. And so I have in here to set clear roles and expectations. So like you pointed out, you make it so each kid has to post once and then respond to 2 classmates, or maybe they have to, the question group has to ask 2 questions. If you've done anything with leveled questions, so level 1, level 2, or level 3 questions, I would say no level 1 questions allowed. But the kids have to ask 2 questions and then respond to 2 questions, or ask 2 questions back to another. But you set those expectations up front and make it really clear for kids what they need to do. The nice part is, once you get a really good framework and setup for this, it can be entirely student-led. So literally all you're doing is logging in, watching the discussion, making sure that it's keeping the tone that you want it to, everyone's staying within your expectations, and be transparent with kids too. Be like, the first few weeks, maybe you chime in with a response, or maybe you ask some follow-up questions. But as you get later into the book studies, it's totally all students, and you just go in to monitor what's happening. And then another fun thing you can do is have a prize for bringing the book discussions into classroom work. So if you're truly using classroom time to collaborate and come up with new ideas for those kind of events that might come up, if a kid brings an idea from the book discussion into the classroom work, then you give them some props, give them an elbow bump, because you can't give them a high five. But in the folder, there's a list of leadership books. I've put some books in there. Rashawn added a lot of books to that list. So if you have any books that you've used in this kind of book study scenario, that'd be awesome. Just go in and add books to the list.
Alice, can you remind me which one you use with your freshmen?
With freshmen, I use 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens.
And then it's seniors that you do Tuesdays with Maury with?
Yes, except I'm probably going to switch my senior book this year. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I would love to do something with Brene Brown, but that might be, I don't know. We'll see.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep.
Another book I'm going to add on here, I don't know where you would want it, but have you ever done the 4 agreements with your classes?
I've not.
That one was super insightful for my Sources of Strength class last year, and really impacted them in terms of their leadership. It's another really good one for everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing these ideas. Goal setting. So these are just a couple of different methods that I use for goal setting if you've never done goal setting with kids. Based on, Grit by Angela Duckworth, she talks about this hierarchy of goal setting. So the idea that So this idea is that kids will dream, basically. So this top level goal is, what is your ultimate big, beautiful life at the end of the tunnel? So you're done with school, and it's not a career. And when you say, the kids are baffled when you say it can't be a career. What do you mean? Like, I want to be a doctor. Well, what does that mean? Like, what do you want to, where do you want to be in life? What does a big, beautiful life look like for you? And then they look at these mid-level goals. So what is it going to take to get there? What's their path through college, university, CTE courses, and then where are they kind of now in their classes? This is just a way to get kids to relate, like, I am in Algebra 2 and I hate it every day of my life. But I know that getting through Algebra 2 is going to get me onto calculus and onto, you know, into college, onto medical school, onto this end goal that I have for my life. You can take this method, I call it top down or bottom up. So some kids, probably juniors or seniors, can really focus and get to the end goal, or at least these kind of big bubbles in the mid-level of where they want to be in 10 years or where they want to be in 20 years. But freshmen are like, I'm just trying to get through today. And so you can start at the bottom and say, okay, you are taking French 1. Why are you taking French 1? Oh, I want to learn to speak French so I can go to France someday. Oh, maybe that's a next level goal. Why do you want to go to France? And encourage kids to just keep asking why to get to the next step in the goal. So, you know, maybe the why is, well, I want to go to France because I have family there, or I want to travel over the world. And maybe it becomes a pathway to a career that has to do with travel, or something like that. Or maybe they're just like, I'm taking this class because it's required, but I also want to do something beyond this someday. And so they're just connecting what they're doing daily in these smaller goals to something bigger in their life and seeing a purpose behind it. I've had kids actually draw out these hierarchies, and they are funny because some of them are very structured, bottom to top. The bubbles, they all match and they're beautiful. And other kids, you know, if you've done any kind of emergenetics, you see the yellow brain come out with, you know, the big goal in the middle and all these branches coming out from all different sides. So that can be really fun. Okay, do the next one. MCII. So this is mental contrasting with implementation intentions, which is a mouthful, but this is another method of goal setting. So with the big, beautiful goal at the end, so maybe kids are setting a long-term goal of, I want to go to state in the 100-meter dash. And then they have them close their eyes, visualize, what does it look like when you're at state in running the 100-meter dash, and then visualize all the challenges that you are going to face getting to that point. That's the mental contrasting piece. So the idea that you can hold in your mind at the same time the end goal, the end vision for where you want to be, and all the challenges that you're going to face along the way to that. We do a little visualization in class. It's really fun. You know, the kids close their eyes and think about it and think about all the stuff in between. It helps them with the hierarchy bubbles as well, but it gets them to these short-term goals that we do. Implementation intentions they're basically just if-then statements. And I start really simple with kids. So this is a biweekly goal sheet that the kids do in our student council class. You set 3 goals, but then they have to set up how they're going to achieve that goal. So if this challenge gets in my way, then I will do this to overcome the challenge. So it's an intention of how you're going to implement the goal. It takes some practice to get them to write good implementation statements. So for example, if a kid says, my goal is to have no missing assignments for 2 weeks. If I have 3 soccer games and I'm tired after practice every day, then what's your plan for when you face that challenge? So then I will make a cup of tea at 8 o'clock every night and sit down and do homework. Or if I have a lot of homework and I don't want to do it, then I will make sure my phone is in another room. So just the idea of having a plan. It creates an automaticity with the goal. So when you're approached with a challenge, you're not like, oh, I guess I just won't meet my goal this week. They have a plan of attack and how they're going to go after their goal. And then, of course, this evaluation on the end, that reflection piece is really important for kids. Can they look back and say, maybe I actually didn't want to go after that goal, or I just had a hard time with it, or I exceeded it. Having a plan really helps. They just put some reflection into it, and it helps them from week to week with their goals. We do one word for the year. This is a whole activity that I can put in the folder, but I won't unpack it right now just for the sake of time. But they put their one word on the line and then talk about how their one word impacted them that week. And then, of course, something that they're proud of. So again, I do these usually bi-weekly. Kids gave me some feedback that they were too quick of a turnaround. So last year we did them every 3 weeks. And that just gave them a little more time to think through some really, really good goals. Another method. So we actually did this last year and kids really loved it. The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath, another good read. So if you are a reader, you have a lot of books on your list today. But this is the idea of that life is made up of moments, and we as student council advisors and student council put a lot of effort into creating these moments for the student body. So moments of elevation, of insight, of pride, and of connection. And really in all 4 of these categories, you could put a lot of the things that we do. Elevation, you know, like the homecoming football game, and connection, going to the dance and seeing your friends. Of pride, like, you know, when you're in the parade and you've got your face painted, all of these different things, or you did something really amazing. So in this book, Chip and Dan Heath unpack the idea of milestones. And so different, like if you think about a Fitbit, you have these milestones or these different things, that badges that you can achieve on your way to bigger goals. And so last year I had kids do, when they wrote their long-term goals for the end of the year. So maybe it was, you know, I want to run the 100-meter dash at the state meet. They had to write milestones to get to that goal. So maybe a milestone was, I need to get to this time, I need to get to this time, and just incrementally faster times, or I want to win this invitational. And then as they met those milestones, I had a big cowbell in my room, and they would stand up and be able to ring the cowbell to be like, I met this milestone today, and you know, kids would cheer and celebrate. And we actually had a really good discussion about how some kids love to ring the cowbell, and other kids were like, no, just check my box over here. I don't need to stand up and ring a bell to tell everybody. But so just this idea of writing, again, the milestones, the steps towards the long-term goals. All right, whew, that was fast. 11:02. Questions, other ideas to share, thoughts, suggestions? I'm looking at my notes.
I have a question kind of for the group. For leadership portfolios, which I know a lot of us do, have you guys thought about how you're amending those based on limited activities this year? Have you gotten to that point yet? What is that looking like for you guys?
Christine, I can tell you, I have not gotten to editing the portfolio yet. My thought was, because our administration has basically said we're starting 2 to 4 weeks in hybrid. I think we'll be in hybrid for at least 8 weeks. And so we're going to start with the book study, and then we're going to brainstorm ideas. I will do the goal setting portfolio, so they'll do that right off the bat, but I will probably hold off on handing out the rest of that stuff until later.
Awesome, thanks.
Anybody else do leadership portfolios? Never heard of a leadership portfolio.
We do a leadership portfolio, and to be honest, until you just mentioned it, I haven't even given it. I've been so consumed with so many other things. But obviously it's going to have to be updated. I really like the idea. We're doing hybrid to start, and so I like the idea of doing some stuff that they can do one day in class and the other group can respond. And I love the idea of the book study. So maybe those will be pieces that will, because there's some reflections as part of our different levels of the leadership portfolio. So maybe we can just kind of build that into it. But yeah, I'm starting to be like, what are we going to do for our back to school assembly? And we were trying to night as a drive-in, but it doesn't look like that's even going to be an option. Our district just said no outside of school activities for first quarter at all.
Yes, we were going to try the drive-in thing too, and that's
so we're thinking about trying if they'll let us do it in October after first quarter is over. But at this point, we're just going to try to be as creative as we can with some online stuff. So that's definitely, if people have ideas about how they're going to be doing virtual assemblies and or if they did stuff in the spring that worked really well. We did some great dress up day pictures that were okay, not a ton. I'd like to have more participation, but if you guys have some stuff that worked really great, throwing it into that folder would be amazing, because I know we're all struggling to figure that all out. So yeah.
Just real quickly, we did a thing that was really cool that actually the drama club put on, and then we kind of jumped on and did some segments for, but they did a weekly news show on Fridays every week. And so they did so we just did it through Google Meet. And I think the biggest one was when we had our elections for student council, because I made all my kids do their speeches live on the Google Meet. And then, but there was a lot of attendance at those that I think was really cool. And it was nice because the kids who are normally running productions at school got to produce something, and then we got to jump on and be a little bit more out-facing. And so it worked really, really, really well to partner with our drama kids on that. So that was just a cool thing that we really liked, that I think that we're going to continue into the fall. So
that's awesome. One school at the conference shared that they did something similar, but they did a day in the life. And so especially when they were all in at home or remote learning, it was just a funny, I wake up in the morning and I feed my cat and log in, and this is what I'm wearing. And it could be, a student, so you could pick, the student who doesn't normally have the spotlight and highlight them for a day in the life, or a day in the life of a janitor, or a day in the life of the principal, and he's riding a rolly chair down the ramp in your school because nobody's there. Different, fun things like that, but just something to include on social media.
Flipgrid is really fun for that kind of, to create those kind of things as well. If you guys have ever used that Flipgrid option, that's a lot of fun. Our Sources of Strength group last year did a virtual talent show, and it really just turned into a lip sync / karaoke night. And I mean, there was about 100 kids on there. They had a ball.
Hey, Alice, one thing I'd throw in there is, and you've hit it a couple of times, but I just remind people to look at why you do activities, not how to replace activities. And so if you did the features of the activity versus the benefits of the activity kind of thing, and really had kids understand, surely we can put it together, but man, what were the benefits of us doing dress up days, right? And then maybe it's not something that you need this year if you're not in person.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I think our biggest focus this year is going to be, because I think the feel that I'm getting from a lot of the kids that I've been talking to is, well, we don't get to do this and we don't get to do that. Okay, but what do we get to do, and why are we doing it, and how do we find that joy and that hope in it? So really trying to turn their thinking from the nots to the not do's to the do-do's. So hopefully they'll laugh, because that's a potty joke, but yeah.
Do-do's, yeah. Yeah, the whole idea of get to versus have to.
For sure. And how exciting for us as leadership teachers to actually I mean, this is my first year teaching leadership class, but I've been involved in it for a long time. And it's always, I hear the same thing from the leadership teacher, like, oh, we're just so busy doing all this planning. We never really get to dig into this, the why, the mission statement, what it really means to be a leader, and what are those like amazing skills that they are, you know, not really getting an opportunity to build. What an opportunity for us all to go back to what leadership class was really all about. Initially, and what it really means to be a strong leader in a democratic society. And so I am so excited.
Yeah, and I think that makes a difference too. If we are excited and we see this as an opportunity to do something great and to do something awesome, that will rub off on our kids. Like if we go into it going, well, I don't know what we're gonna do, we can't, then that will rub off on our kids as well. So whatever we project as leaders, as advisors of our groups, and is going to be what our kids will project as well.
So I did a thing with my executive council a couple weeks ago to try to like re-ground them in why they're in student council. And so we looked at our purpose and responsibilities in our Constitution. And so what I had them do first was write down all the reasons that they're personally in student council. And then I had them sort of cross-check it with that responsibilities and purpose to see where that matched up and where that was, where they were not matching up, to get them to kind of refocus on, again, back to what you're saying, their why, their mission, their goal. And it was a powerful half an hour for us of conversation of, and I think hope for them. Yeah.
Similar. We just did something similar with our exec board too, except Caden Talladay is our president this year, and he was like, I want to know what the council expects of us. So we did this meeting and put out a survey to our whole student council and said, what do you expect out of exec board? What do you think our job is? Because there sometimes can be that division or that sense of, you know, the elite group. Rashawn's laughing because this is such a Caden thing, right? And so just getting some feedback from like, we're leading you, what do you expect from us? And it's going to be pretty sweet because there's going to be more of a connection between like, this is what we're doing, this is what you expect us to do. Here are some gaps that we're definitely trying to fill in. So all of those things that you don't usually have time for, pull out of the bag and you can take care of it now. All right, that is what I had. Sorry, I had to buzz through. If you have any questions or you're curious about how I do some of these things, or you need more ideas, again, check the folder, add things to the folder. You can send me an email, and heck, we can set up another meet if you want to, and I can show you some other things in depth. But thank you so much.
A couple ideas to share if you can hear me.
Yeah.
This is Sean. I'm over on the Western Slope, and we're hybrid also, and I haven't decided yet if it's going to be a once a week check-in club type thing, or we're going to try to push forward because we also dropped down in electives that we can offer. So now the kids that are involved in everything now are trying to cram everything, you know, into an even more compact schedule. So, and that just adds more unneeded stress right now. But a couple of things I've been thinking about is taking from the Bionic leadership initiatives, which to me feel more civic minded in terms of, yeah, this is everyone's reality worldwide. And as leaders, how do we step in to share light and hope and strength in these times? So pairing more with the sources of strength, programming ideas. I don't have a ton of experience, but I know that, you know, with their campaigns and little things, more of that passive program initiative. But then as well as, you know, what are the needs of our school and what is that little piece we can do as citizens to keep hope, strength, and light right now? You know, what's that for you in a small way, or is it something we can do school-wide in a bigger campaign? So those are some things I'm going to try to draw on just to keep some sense of unity. That's a big thing right now that seems to be lacking, is that unity of people, of humans. So
that sounds great. What did you say that was called?
the Bionic.
The Bionic.
Bionic, BIONIC. She's a retired school counselor out of Green Mountain, I want to say. But if you just type in Bionic in all caps, it comes out, and they have a bunch of different really simple campaign initiatives, from get well notes to people in need. So they kind of have a committee that really keeps out for the students who have been really absent for a long time, or there's some major hospital concerns, as could be very relevant right now. They do big poster making campaigns for different events or recognitions, but they have these different kind of subsets that to me feel more relevant right now when we're trying to figure out what is our virtual way of influence. So that might be a resource that you guys can look into as well. And I know I'll be doing the same.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
So one other thing I just wanted to encourage people to look at is the Jostens Renaissance Leadership Curriculum. Is phenomenal. Of course, they have the Harbor series with Mike Smith, and his new book that's out called Legacy versus Likes is phenomenal as well. It's just a quick read for kids, but it sparks so much discussion. And the other one that I found this summer that I was really excited about is called Cultivating Leadership. Let's Cultivate Greatness is what it's called. And it's this woman named Erin, and she has a bunch of different lessons and activities and what have you. And maybe it's something y'all have already done, but if you're also a history and social studies teacher, she has a ton of stuff in there around civics and history. But she has a really great leadership curriculum as well. And then the last one I'll throw out there, I feel like I should get money from these people, is a program called Character Strong. And that has some really great resources as well for what the young lady that just spoke before me, and I'm sorry, I forget your name already, was just saying about really lifting up, making a big wave and lifting up all the boats in our school, and really ensuring that community and who we are as a school organization and as a school family and community, that doesn't go away just because we're in a remote environment.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all these ideas, Sarah. I'm gonna add these all to my list.
I'm sorry, I'm just so like,
no,
I'm planning PDs and I'm so excited to get back with the kids. Like I can barely contain myself, clearly.
No. But that's really what this is for everyone to share ideas. If, none of us are a sage on the stage. Doesn't matter how long we've been doing this. We change and shift and do different things every year. And, I always say that's the one thing I love about student council and student council advisors. We're not stealing each other's plays. We're all in the same boat, trying to lift kids to be leaders in the same way. And if we share ideas to make each other better, then that's great. So,
and by the way, Alice, I'm up in Woodland Park, so if you want to get together, let me know. We're close.
Yeah, that would be great. Good to know. All right, Justin.
All right, Alice, thank you. That was great. And I think that with this summer webinar series, this went exactly how we had hoped, where we built up basically to this last event where we had, I think at one point, like 35 participants on this call. So exactly what we had hoped for. And I think this went really, really well. And while this is the last one that we have scheduled, it is my intention to kind of get these going back again. I know you guys are starting up with either your hybrid or virtual or in-person learning here in the next couple of days and weeks. And so you guys will be quite busy, I'm sure. But once you guys sort of settle in, we'll plan on more of these webinars like we discussed earlier to sort of have you guys share ideas on what maybe is working to start the year, what's not working, some ideas, all that kind of good stuff. So look for that information. Committee members that are still on the call, just know that we will be getting you guys back together as a group here soon to sort of discuss some of our next steps. But just want to say thank you, and hopefully everyone got something out of these webinars over the summer, and we'll be able to take something away to hopefully make their groups better as we start in the fall. So thank you. Look for more information. The COVID document will be coming from Whitney here soon with a lot of other stuff. So as long as that Q&A that I talked about next week, enjoy the rest of your week and the start of the school year, and we'll be hearing from you guys in the next couple weeks. So thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep, thanks, Alice.
Guys.
Thanks so much, Alice. That was great. Really appreciate you letting me jump in.
Oh no, that was awesome. Thank you for contributing.
I so applaud you for having a toddler and doing all of that. I think my lucky stars every day. My children have their own homes. I don't know how I would do it all. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I hope we'll be able to keep in touch. I threw my email in there, and would love to have our schools be a little more like nice to each other. Maybe
Yeah.
this whole rivalry thing, I don't understand it. So
yeah, or use the rivalry for good. Like we've done that before with St. Mary's, where you compete against each other, but it's for a common good. So you use like the rivalry game to, you know, we did a canned food drive against St. Mary's for years, and it was whoever got the most weight, you got to pie the other school in the face. But you know, with the rivalry and the competition, we got to, you know, we got a lot of food.
I think that is awesome. I will let's work on something like that, because I think that would be super fun to get our kids get excited about something like that. So I hope we can keep in touch.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.